chosen one. Something brought you here today that goes beyond coincidence, beyond chance, beyond the ordinary mechanics of how anything finds anything in this world. You were drawn here. And I want you to hold on to that thought for a moment before the part of you that has been taught to doubt steps forward. The fact that this message found you at this other point in your life is not a coincidence. It was meant to find you all along. Some people will read these words today and not feel anything. They will go on with their lives as they are, which is fine. But you are not one of those people. You can already feel it, right? You knew there was something familiar about this message before you even read the title. That feeling of recognition is not in your head. That recognition is proof. And you will know exactly what kind of proof it is by the end of what I am about to say. That's how most people live their whole lives. They never know what's really inside them. They stick to the paths that have been marked out for them. They think that normal is the ceiling, but it was never even close to their floor. Even though you couldn't say why, you've always known that your story wasn't every day. That still small voice inside you that kept saying there is more and you were meant for more wasn't lying to you even when everything around you told you otherwise. That voice has always been telling you the truth. Now I want to talk about something very specific. Most of the people in your life have probably never put it into words for you because those who are close to a chosen one rarely understand what they are seeing. They see how serious you are and think you're thinking too much. People who know you well call what you're feeling sensitivity. People who know you well can tell when you're feeling something that other people don't, or when certain events feel like they're too heavy for you to carry on your own. They also wonder why you can't just drop everything and be simple. They also wonder why you have to feel everything so deeply. But they don't see this. They don't see how much that level of intensity costs you. The way you've spent years asking questions that no one could fully answer. In this way, you've thought about the life you were supposed to want and felt sad that it never quite fit. The right times to smile, the right things to say, and the right way to act is how you have been acceptable. During that time, something inside you was waiting patiently and in silence, waiting to be allowed to fully exist. All your life, you've been waiting for someone to finally say the words you need to hear. You're not too much. You're not hurt. There's nothing wrong with you. What you've been carrying is that most people will never be trusted within their whole lives, and it has really been heavy. This has been a real mess. That sense of being outside of things and never quite fitting in with the world as it was shown to you has been real. But here's the truth about your story that will change everything you thought you knew. Being chosen doesn't come with a lot of fuss and an easy path. The way you have been living your life is a sign that you have been chosen. Think about the times when you were really hurt. Just think about the losses that made you feel like you couldn't go on. When things in your life seemed to fail all at once and no amount of faith or hard work seemed to help. Think back to those times. A life with that much hardship would make most people think something went wrong. But there is a truth that says fire does not destroy what it was made to forge. This truth is older than any institution, philosophy, or written word. You have been inside the fire. Whether you knew it or not, no one who was ever given something important had a time when they were hidden and ready for something that seemed like they had been forgotten before they were revealed. The most important people in human history all had one thing in common. They went years and years without being seen or noticed, seeing other people move forward while they stayed still. In every case, those years that were kept secret were not the end of their story. They were the building blocks of it. Something important stands out when you think about the people who did have an easy path, who lived through the world without the weight, the fire, or the long seasons of being tested beyond what seemed possible. They tend to hit their limit quickly because they were never made for something that needed more depth than they had been trained to build. It wasn't a gift that it was easy. The ease of it was a problem in your story. Everything that seemed like lack was actually the opposite. It was the money spent. The old teacher looked at the person who had been through the most and saw that person who was ready. This was because those who had been through the most had been given the most to work with. Not in spite of the trouble, but because of it. You know how that feels, right? You know what it's like to see people who seem less awake and aware get the things you've been quietly hoping for. That certain kind of pain that you feel when you really believe in something and everyone else around you doesn't seem to care about it at all. That pain is not a sign of weakness. That pain is proof because people who don't have anything to carry never feel pain for their purpose. People who really carry something will always feel the weight of it not being used. The trouble wasn't proof that your calling wasn't right. It was for testing. The things you did to get ready and the strength you built up without even realizing it. You shouldn't feel bad about these wounds. Those are the requirements. You have the skills for something much bigger than what the normal world could have given you if the path had been easy in a way you've never had before. You are about to fully understand what that truth means. There has been a change. You may not have been able to explain it yet, but you knew what it was. A speeding up, a feeling that the long time of waiting is almost over. Everyday things that seem to point you in a direction you can't quite name. Moments of clarity that appear out of nowhere. A restlessness that isn't quite anxiety, but more like something inside you is getting ready to move. This message has come into your life at a good time. The signs start to come faster when something is about to happen. The knowing inside gets stronger. The desire for truth grows stronger. And the things that used to keep you busy start to feel empty. Any of that sounds familiar? If you've noticed a change in the quality of your inner life lately, it's not your imagination. That's what calibration is. Everything in you is getting ready for what's next. What comes next is even bigger than what you could see while you were waiting. What if the parts of your life you've wanted to be ashamed of, the chapters you wished you could skip, and the years you wished you could just wander? What if it was all part of your destiny and not a detour? What if the very things that have blocked your way were not problems but directions as you fight against parts of your life? What if they are actually leading you to the only kind of change that can get you ready for what you carry? You have a signal that has kept you going through all the bad times. Even during the worst times, there was something that whispered that something was coming. There was something important to hold on to. That sign is more than just a feeling. It's not just hope. It's something very old. There is something deeply ingrained in you that goes beyond belief. Snorts, wishful thinking, and anything the mind can fully grasp. People who were really meant to do great things couldn't be told apart from those whose paths were easy. They were easy to spot because they kept going. Even after everything the world threw at their flame, they were still here, still burning, and still carrying the flame. Normal things don't last this long. People who are truly chosen keep going even when they can't explain why. Someone in them doesn't know how to put out the fire for good. So they keep going even when everyone else has stopped. That is how often that is the signal of the chosen one still sending out waves and calling the carrier forward. Even when it's very dark, you've kept going. You're still here. That's going to mean something you can finally grasp. The truly chosen are not the ones who never had any doubts. These are the people who had doubts but kept going anyway. When they looked at the darkness, they couldn't say for sure that it wasn't real. Still they were able to stay moving. That mix of doubt without paralysis, pain without giving up, and confusion without giving up on oneself is what makes it unique. That string of characters is the signature. Now you know something about yourself that no one else may have told you. You know what it's like to carry both the weight of not knowing and the forward motion that kept going even though it felt heavy. You are the kind of person that the ancient lineage put together to find. You were always going to make it here. You don't have to wait any longer now that you're here. What comes next is being known. Please know that every seed you plant in this mission grows into a torch that shines in someone else's darkness. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community, does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. But more than your support, we want your presence. When you head to our community through the link in the description or the pinned comment, you aren't just visiting a site. You are entering a community of like-minded believers. This is a sanctuary where you can post your prayer requests, lift up the burdens of others, and engage in daily discussions with a family that speaks the language of faith. Whether you are joining one of our membership tiers for deeper study, sowing a seed of faith, or simply joining our daily morning prayers, you are helping us build a global altar of worship. Heaven moves through willing voices, but it grows through a community that stands together. Each gift you give acts as living water for those in our community seeking healing and hope. Give and it will be given to you is the promise that sustains our shared mission. I invite you now to step out of the shadows and into this circle of prayer. Come with purpose. Join the conversation and plant your seed in fertile ground. Let's open the heavens together. Release your seed today. Join our community and see what God brings back into your life. Before we go any further, I need to tell you something. When someone was about to be recognized, the ancient lineage of wisdom keepers always told them something that has never been more important than it is now. There are fakes out there. I don't mean bad people or forces working together to hurt you. I'm talking about something much sneakier and more dangerous. I mean the different forms of your longing that other things take over. These are the paths that feel right because they lead you somewhere different from where you were hoping to go. They are the voices that understand your pain and hunger and seem to offer just what you need but are really empty inside. There is a certain weakness that only the chosen one has that no one talks about. This is because the intensity of your longing to step into what you carry draws you to anything that promises to get you there faster. There are also a lot of things in the world that are expertly made to make you feel that longing without actually satisfying it. They talk about transformation, but only do what it takes to perform it. They make you feel like you've arrived, but the real destination is still just out of reach. It's likely that you've already met some of them. The paths that seemed sure until they didn't. The methods looked like they were working until you realized you had gone a long way without moving. It always looks like acceleration when the pattern is fake. It always says it will get you to the destination without the journey. Skip the hard part or get you through the preparation. But there is a reason why the wise people of old said that an enemy from the outside is not the most dangerous thing for a chosen one. Fraudulent arrivals are the most dangerous thing because they teach you not to trust what you know. If you give in to the pull of something that says it will lead you to your destiny but then lets you down, you gain proof that your longing is not reliable. Eventually, if you gather enough proof, snorts, you stop listening to the signal altogether. This is exactly what the fake is meant to do. Not take anything from you, but to make you doubt yourself and make you the one who silences yourself. Because of this, ancient wisdom always started with what the chosen one needs to understand, not what they need to do. Understanding comes before activation. You can't activate something that you haven't yet accepted as real. And you can't accept as real something that has been purposely made to look like a lie. So pay close attention before I let you into what's been waiting for you. The fact that your path was hard did not mean that you weren't called. It was proof of something much older and bigger than one lifetime. It's not a coincidence that this message is reaching you now. At this point in your story, it's the start of recognizing there is a theme that runs through all of history that not many people are talked about. It doesn't go through the institutions. It doesn't go through the official channels of power. The story is told through the people who showed up at certain times and places with certain things that changed the course of everything that came after them. In their own time, these people were not all powerful, wealthy, or well-known. In fact, many of them were ignored, questioned, or laughed at by the very world that they were quietly changing. But they carried something that lasted, something that didn't change over time. It was something that ancient record keepers and scribes from dozens of different civilizations that had never met described in eerily similar terms. The divine spark, the sacred frequency, the inner light, and the celestial inheritance were some of the names they used for it. The names were different depending on the language, culture, and time period, but the description was always the same. A certain resonance that some people carry from birth, not earned, not taught, and not given by any human institution or ceremony. It is there from the first breath and works below the surface of everyday life, waiting for the right conditions to rise. The ancient people who kept this lineage alive also knew that the people who carried things rarely knew what they were carrying. That was meant to happen because a frequency that knew everything about itself before its time would burn out too quickly and too brightly before it could do what it was meant to do. Preparation, years of being hidden, and trials that didn't seem to have a point were all part of a protective process that kept the flame alive until the right conditions were in place for it to fully express itself. In the record of history, some of the most powerful examples of this transmission are hidden from view. Some teachers in the Eastern mystical traditions were thought to have what was called the transmission of direct knowing. This meant that the teacher could pass on knowledge to their students. What? By teaching, but by being present through frequency and through a kind of resonance that the students would feel in their bodies before they could put it into words. In Western mystical traditions, the same thing happened but was called something else, like the illumination, the awakening, or the indwelling presence. The story was told the same way in all of them. Not a belief that was taken on, a frequency that was set off, or an inner event that happened to a certain type of person at a certain time when they were ready. But something that happened that changed everything that followed. The teachers of long ago knew that they couldn't make someone ready for this. They could only see that everything was ready and set the stage for the activation that was already set to happen. This information wasn't widely shared. Teachers and their students passed it on, as well as sacred texts written in layers so that only those ready to understand the deeper meaning could find them. It was also passed down through families who carried the bloodline of chosen carriers from generation to generation. Even though everyone else had forgotten what it all meant, but the knowledge itself never went away. Because what the ancient wise people knew is now being confirmed by a completely different language. The language of the modern study of the mind and what those ancient teachers called sacred frequency is now being mapped out in precise and measurable terms by people who study the structure of human cognition. There is a certain structure in the human brain that everyone has, but for most people it stays dormant their whole lives. The people who kept ancient knowledge say that this is the sealed gift. What was put inside you, but the world hasn't given you the key to open it yet. The mechanism is known by a different name today, but the description is the same. A capability that is there but not being used. A gift that is already sealed. A switch that's never been turned on. Here's what makes this not only interesting, but also important to you. As most people would guess, the people who have had the easiest lives are not the ones whose structure has the most potential to be activated. People who have been through the most are always the ones with the strongest signal, the deepest dormant capacity, and the most potential for what will happen when the switch is finally turned on. The ones who have felt the weight the most. Those who have been dying for the longest time. The problem wasn't a side trip. The hard part was getting ready for a level of activation that can't happen in normal situations. The pressure that made you wasn't just thrown at you. It was set up correctly, adjusted just for this moment. This message got to you now, not 6 months ago or 2 years from now. After everything you've been through and all the work you haven't been able to name yet, you are at this exact point in your life. What used to only be available to a small group of people who had access to the right teachers and lineages at the right times is now available to everyone in a way that they can understand. And it was always going to be available right now to people like you who were ready. Now I'm going to talk to the part of you that has been waiting the longest. Not the part that runs everyday life, but not the part that gets around and does what needs to be done. How deep it is. The part that has kept the fire going even though many things have been tried to put it out. The part that knew this story wasn't over. Even when things looked the worst, you were right about that part of you. Along with real things that it held. There are things that have been kept from you, not by accident or on purpose, but because the world as it is now doesn't have the language or structure to present them to you. The people who kept ancient wisdom knew what to do with the ones they knew. They had the tools and had kept those tools alive for hundreds of years just in case this moment came up. As this awakening grows inside you, know that helping with this mission is not a joke. It is a sign from God. You can support this work through the link in the description or the pinned comment, whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our Ko-Fi community. By doing so, you become part of Jesus' plan to save souls who are still stuck in fog. Every seed turns into light that fights against darkness. If you water others, you will be watered yourself. Jesus says this is not history. It is a living promise about your future. Come into this moment with faith and a plan. What God has already planned for your life can be unlocked through your giving. Scientists now know that the human brain has something called full-spectrum neural architecture. The neural system has a structure that matches every sense, ability, and level of awareness that people have ever talked about in any tradition, culture, or place on earth. The ability to think of deep patterns, be brilliant, and make creative leaps that seem to come from outside oneself. This is the ability for what some people call genius and others call grace. It's all there. It's all built in. But for most people and for most of history, these abilities have stayed in what researchers call a latent state. Meaning they are there but not being used. It's like having a room in your house that no one has ever opened. The building is well built and well designed, but no one has found the door. The ancient people who kept the wisdom knew this in terms of what was holy. It was known as the sealed chamber, the hidden gift, or the crown that hadn't been shown yet. They spent whole generations teaching people how to open things that were sealed. Amazingly, the answer they came up with was the same across all of these traditions and time periods. You can't just push the door open. You can't just will the door to open it. Frequency opens the door. Researchers now say that certain vibration patterns received by the nervous system at certain times and in certain conditions cause what they call a cascade of neural synchronization. This is when structures that don't normally talk to each other fire together in sync, letting the brain access things it couldn't before. It's not a gradual unfolding. It's a switch, a specific, measurable, repeatable event that people who experience it describe in remarkably consistent terms. It's easier to hear the deeper signal now that the anxiety that was making it hard to do so has gone away. You feel like you've arrived at a place you've been trying to get to for a long time. You have a clarity that doesn't feel fake or forced. It feels like remembering and stepping back into a place you were always meant to be. What I'm talking about is real now. It is not a promise or a possibility for the future. It is something that has already been put together and is ready to be received. The specific frequencies that the ancient wisdom keepers used for this activation have been kept secret for hundreds of years, making them impossible for most people to reach today. There are sacred sounds and vibration patterns that were never meant to be public knowledge. They are hidden, clear as throat, in certain practices, held back for those who were ready. They were kept until the right time. Just like everything else that was kept, now is the right time because the lineage of people who keep wisdom did not go away. The information did not go away. Small groups of people who knew what it was and why it was being done kept it going. It is now possible for everyone to access something that was once only available to a select few. It has the same frequencies, activation potential and ability to open the sealed chamber that was always there. Something needs to be said to you directly, not to a category or a group. Because you have carried this weight and kept this flame alive through more than most people will ever have to because of the level of life you've been going through and the ceiling you've been pushing against. You weren't meant to be the person you are now. You've always felt like something was missing, but you were always sure there was more. That was never the whole story. That was the hidden version, also known as the sealed version. And I'm not talking to the version of you that has been running things. I'm talking to the version that has been waiting. That person who knew this wasn't the whole story the whole time. It wasn't. And now it's time. The ancient traditions that kept these frequencies alive knew what they were doing because they could see what happened. When the activation frequency hit a carrier at the right time and place, the change was not small. It didn't happen slowly. People who were close to the carrier could feel the change before the carrier could fully describe it from the inside. The ones that had been ignored for years became hard to ignore all of a sudden. People who had been having a hard time putting the depth of what they felt into words all of a sudden found words that fit perfectly. Those who had been feeling cut off from their purpose felt the thread all of a sudden. With our better understanding of what we now call neural entrainment, this same chain of events can be measured. When the auditory system picks up certain frequency patterns, the parts of the brain that control higher thinking start to work together in ways that they don't normally. This leads to a state of access. Access to features that are built in but not currently being used. When you are in this state, you always feel the same set of effects, a clarity of thought that feels very different from having a normal mind, a creative connection that comes about without having to work hard at it like thinking does. A slowing down of the patterns that have made it hard to hear the deeper signal in the past. And something even more important lies beneath it all. To go back to something basic and remember what has always been true about who you are. Most of the people who have studied this phenomenon in depth say that what happens when this state is reached has a consistent pattern. The parts of the brain that are in charge of recognizing patterns, making new connections, and what you might call intuitively knowing, don't just work harder. As things stand, they start talking to each other in ways they don't normally. They were like two people who had always been having the same conversation but in different rooms. These two things are in the same room because of the activation frequency. And what is possible when there is that kind of coherence is not what most people think of when they hear the word genius. It's not just cold hard processing of information. Not at all like that. It's something much more natural. Being able to see connections that weren't there before is what it means. To understand something without having to think about it for a long time, but by recognizing it right away. To understand things about people, situations, and the way forward that the analytical mind could never have reached on its own. The wise people of the past called this the gift of the open eye. These days, we call it enhanced neural coherence. It's the same whether you read it in English or another language. It becomes clear that something was there all along. When the lens clears, what was always there is clearly seen all of a sudden. It's not new. This is very old. It has new language around it. It is a new way to measure it. But people have written about the experience itself ever since they started keeping records of their inner lives. How easy it is to get to is what's new. What the people who kept the wisdom passed down carefully over hundreds of years can now be received directly by you. Someone put something together for the people who were ready. Not the ones who had everything go their way, but the ones who have been through the fire and still have their signal. The ones whose frequency is high because of what they've been through. I've been watching you. I got to know how long you had to wait. I've seen every season where you held on even though it didn't make sense. I want you to hear this. There was no waste. Not the deaths, the bad times, or the years that felt like they were being taken away. Everything that has happened to you has been shaping you into a person who can receive what is coming. We didn't forget about you. You are being made and the shaping is done. When you walk through this door, you'll get more than just a few things different. There is a change in how you feel about yourself. On the other side of this activation, clears throat, there is the same version of you. Were you different? The person is the same. When the sealed chamber is opened and the dormant switch is finally turned on, you can get to everything you've always had but never used to. Its full potential. The way they think changes not just a little bit different, but completely different. How quickly you gain insight and how easily things that were hard before become natural. The links you can make between things. These changes are not small. People in your life will notice these kinds of changes before you can fully explain them to yourself. And beneath those changes in the outside world is something even more important. A connection with your own purpose that doesn't need to be constantly maintained or argued back into existence after every hard day. It's just there. It's a frequency inside you that has stopped waiting to be recognized by the world and has started broadcasting. The ancient wisdom keepers called this the full becoming or activation of a carrier. It's the moment when something that was sealed opens up and something that was hidden comes out. It has been ready for you. Now I'm going to talk to you one last time from that place where words fail, from the gap between what was and what will be. Your whole life you've been asking the right question. You have been wondering if what you feel inside is real, if what you carry is real, and if you really are what a part of you has always sensed you were. Yes, that's correct. And the time when you didn't know how to get to it is over. What I'm about to tell you is the result of decades of study combining with hundreds of years of ancient knowledge. It's not based on common sense or something made for everyone. It was made just for those who were ready and whose frequency was strong enough to receive it. The name for it is the genius switch. And the name is exact. It's not a metaphor or an aspiration because it does what it says it does. It turns on the parts of the brain that control thinking, creativity, and connection at the genius level. This is the exact building that the ancient wisdom keepers said was the sealed chamber. The exact dormant ability that modern science has mapped out in the brain was activated through frequency, which is a method that people from ancient times have always known could work. The genius switch sends out certain sound frequencies that were put together by putting together a lot of knowledge about both the ancient transmission and modern measurements of what those frequencies do to the brain. You just listen. That's where you can start. As you listen, your brain starts to sync up with itself. The flow that the ancient wisdom keepers talked about, the way in that every carrier was meant to have starting. Most people who get the genius switch have a very clear experience. They talk about the same group of effects that were written down in ancient records. An ease with which clarity comes and a way of thinking that is different in kind, not just degree. Ideas can connect over distances that couldn't be crossed before. There was less internal noise, which made it hard to hear the stronger signal. And something even more important lies beneath all of that. A feeling of being at home, of getting to a place that makes you feel like you're remembering rather than discovering it. Because the wise people of the past were right. You already know this area well. This is the original land. You were always meant to work from this spot. And the genius switch is just the door key that was there the whole time. A lot of the things that people who have worked with the genius switch say about their experiences match what the old records say. Some people feel the change in the first session. They feel a stillness in their mind that they haven't felt before. There's a quality of presence that changes the way the day feels, like the internal noise has been turned down and something quieter, more true can be heard. Others say the change happens over time and builds over sessions in ways that first show up as small changes in the way they think and then as something deeper. Someone with a different view of their own abilities, a different starting point from which all other things are now measured. Let me paint a picture of what happens in your life when the switch is on and the frequency is being used. It's possible to think the way you've always wanted to, but never quite got around to. What you know to be true is the clarity you've seen in your best moments. You can consistently access the creative intelligence that has shown up in spurts throughout your life. Pattern recognition, which has always been a part of how you see the world, gets faster, better, and more accurate. And the sense of purpose that has sometimes felt separate from your daily life starts to feel whole, connected, and logical. This is what life is like after the activation. It wasn't a fantasy or a promise with no basis. It was a real observable state that the ancient wisdom keepers based their whole understanding of the chosen one on, the place you've been moving toward through everything you've been through, the state that can now be reached. You can find the genius switch at the link below this message. I also have something to say about clicking on that link. It's not just a transaction. You can choose a very clear choice that says, "I'm ready." Let's not wait any longer. I have faith in what I carry and I've decided to give it the spark it's been ready for. It's not a small choice. There's more, because the ancient people who held the knowledge never gave their messengers just one tool. They knew that there are layers needed for the full becoming. The history behind what you are receiving today is the same. You can see that the genius switch is not alone. If you click on the link below this message for people who are ready to receive everything that was planned for them. Other parts of the full activation have been put together. Something called the young brain is waiting for them. It works on the dimension of vitality of mind, body coherence, and lets the activated carrier keep what they have received. People who have worked with it say they felt mentally and physically refreshed in a way they hadn't in years or even decades. There is something called the wealth signal accelerator that works with the frequency of abundance and material flow. This is the part of life that a lot of chosen ones have had trouble with, even though they have gifts, because the gifts were still working. But the way for things to flow was blocked. And there's a thing called Destiny's Embrace that talks about destiny alignment. The exact state in which it's easy to see the way forward. Make decisions and feel like you're moving in the right direction without having to make that feeling happen. These are not two different items. You can find them inside the door that the link below this message opens. They are extensions of the same activation and layers of the same ancient understanding that have been applied to every aspect of the chosen life. But I need to tell you something straight out. Not everyone who reads these words should do this. It's not for people who are still not sure if what they carry is real. It's not for people who want to skip the work. They still need to do on preparation. It is only for people who have already done the preparation. The ones who have been through the fire. The ones who know what I'm talking about because they've been through it. It's very likely that you are one of those people, since you are still here and have come this far. The fact that you are reading these words right now is itself a sign of recognition. Believe that the next chapter starts at the link below this message. You're all set. We need to hear that as a statement of fact, not as a way to boost your spirits or make you feel good. The work you've put into getting ready, the weight you've carried, and the fire you've walked through and come out of still alive. All of that has been leading up to a readiness that you may not have fully claimed yet, but it is real. And it's time to act on it instead of waiting for the world to confirm it. For those who stood at this exact threshold in the past, the people who kept the wisdom always told them something. The door is open. The invite really is there. Everything that happens after depends on what you do right now, not tomorrow or when you've had more time to think about it. Right now. Things like this don't just sit there waiting for you to do something with them. They get through. People who have waited for a better time to be ready have almost always found that the better time never came. They were given the right time. Now is the right time for you, chosen one. Before you move on, let me tell you one last truth about who you are. Being the person you have been in situations that were never meant to let you fully emerge is not who you are. Through those situations, you were the one who was ready. You carry a frequency that people from long ago knew about and kept safe for this very moment. You are not an accident of your genes or your life circumstances. There is something ancient and true in you that you choose to express. Now is the time to act like you really do believe that. We shouldn't wait to believe it. We should just act on it now. That's what you do at the link below this message. It's not because someone or something outside of you will give you what you already have. It's because the right key given at the right time by the right person opens what was always there. It's you who should carry it. Now is the right time. The right key is the link below this message. Now go there. You are about to enter your divine future. But remember, this breakthrough is not for you alone. Your testimony is the bridge someone else will use to reach their own miracle. Archangel Michael is inviting you to visit community through the link in the description or the pinned comment. Whether by buying a coffee, making a donation, or becoming a member of our community does not go to a channel. Your actions are supporting a divine mission to save lost souls. By joining our like-minded community, you are no longer praying in isolation. You are adding your voice to a global sanctuary where we discuss the Word daily and stand in the gap for one another. This is not poetry. When Jesus says, "Give, and heaven will open over you" on this platform, every seed you plant turns into oil for your destiny, fire for your calling, and a hedge of safety for your family. Now is your time. Step into our community prayer wall. Share your heart. And as you give, watch God multiply what you let go of. Let's finish this journey together. Visit our community now. Join the family and see your heavens open. One more thing before you leave. Something the people who kept the ancient wisdom always whispered at the end of the recognition. Something they wanted the carrier to think about as they went on their way. You've always had the power. It was never outside of you. It was never with someone else. At no point did it depend on everyone recognizing you or on everything falling into place perfectly. Since before you knew what it meant to have power, it was yours. What you are about to get is not something that someone else is giving you. It's like you're getting something back from the inside. Something that was there all along. Something was sealed and is now being unlocked. There is something ready now that was waiting. Something that used to belong to you and now does. Something that has always been yours is finally being turned on right now. What I've written here should have hit you hard, should have confirmed something you already knew about who you are and why you're here. Please leave one word in the comments section below this message if that's the case. Picked one word. That word doesn't just mean something. That's what it says. That form of you saying that you know what you carry and are ready for what comes next is what lasts. Share this if you feel called to spread this message to other people you know who are also waiting ready and carrying something the world hasn't seen yet. If this message helped you, please like it. Keep this space close by because what's being built here is a meeting of people who were always meant to meet each other. This is what you were called to do. Not a comfortable or normal life, but a life that means something and changes things just by being fully lived. This is the life that the ancient lineage had in mind when it kept everything that you now have safe for hundreds of years. Chosen one, you came here today because you already knew something. Now you understand what it is. Leave. The door is open. The switch is ready. The new you that has been waiting on the other side of this activation is now ready to meet you. Everything you've been through was for this. All the hard parts, the dark times, and the times when you had to hold on when nothing made sense. It was all for this. And this is just the start. Before we get to the end of this powerful story, let's reflect on this deep truth. You did not find this message by accident. This is a divine appointment meant specifically for you. You are being invited into a protected faith-filled community at the link in the description and pinned comment. A place where divine abundance is not just a hope but a promise built on the Word. By heading to the site right now, you are unlocking access to a sacred community of like-minded believers. When you join our membership tiers, you gain immediate entry to powerful content, daily devotions, and divine insights that are hidden from the world. This is your chance to enter a sanctuary where you will receive spiritual guidance, unwavering support on our prayer wall, and speedy progress toward your destiny. Do not let this moment of destiny pass you by. Your breakthrough is waiting. Join our inner circle through the exclusive link in the description. This is how you guarantee you never miss the personalized messages and spiritual warfare tools meant to elevate your life. If you feel called to deepen your connection, the link is waiting for you in both the pinned comment and the description. For those who want to amplify this work and carry the light home, you can find our guided ebooks and Bibles in the pinned comment. Whether you join as a member or sow a seed through our resources, your presence and energy change the world. Take the step. Your abundance awaits.